Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
Welcome back into 1680's The Crow. I'm your host once again, Braden Goodman, as we continue with sports happening right here in our own backyard, country, and around the world. The Blue Jays flag was raised at Toronto City Hall Monday morning to celebrate the team's success, and fans took to the street to show their Jays pride.
I felt like the earth shake, you know what I mean? Everybody was screaming, everybody was crying. I don't know, you had to be there, but like you could feel the energy in the city. Like you could see the fans are excited, just being a Torontonian. It was, oh my God, I can't even put it into words how exciting it was. It was almost like a superhero movie when it felt like, you know, Superman's back is against the wall and then he comes in with a super punch and shakes the world. Like, that's what it felt like. It felt like everybody went crazy and the whole entire dome shook. And it was like, yeah, we're all in this together. I even feel like some of the fans for the other team, they were like, yeah, that was pretty cool. You know? Like, it was really, really cool.
Mayor Olivia Chow congratulated the team and said the city was behind them all the way before leading city officials in a chant of "Let's go Blue Jays." The mayor went on to further say, and quote, "This was, and continues to be a true team effort. Your city is so proud of you, and we know you'll do us proud in the playoffs." The Niagara Falls Illumination Board is also joining in on the celebration, saying in a news release it will honor the Jays' division win by lighting up the falls in blue and white on Monday night, starting at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We now turn our attention to sports stories on the international arena. Nick Sirianni and the Philadelphia Eagles sent a message to the NFL and the other 31 teams in Week 4. The reigning Super Bowl champions don't need a tush-push to win, and for those considering it a boring play, now there's a new twist. The fake makes it even more difficult for opponents to stop and a more interesting play to watch. Facing a team that had their number and one that actually had some success against Philadelphia's signature play 2 playoff seasons ago, Sirianni and offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo mixed things up. Saquon Barkley scored on a touchdown on a fake tush-push, and Jalen Hurts tossed an underhanded TD pass on a variation of it in a 31-25 victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday. Staying in football, Canadian running back Chase Brown and the Cincinnati Bengals get set to face the Denver Broncos on Monday night in the Mile High City. The Bengals are coming off an embarrassing loss last week at the hands of the Minnesota Vikings and look to get back into the win column. Going into Monday night's game, they enter the contest as 7.5-point underdogs. Kickoff is tonight at 5:15 Pacific Standard Time. The New York Jets and Miami Dolphins are also in action tonight, as at the Miami Hard Rock Stadium. Both teams enter tonight's contest 0-3 and will be looking to get their first win of the season. Big news on the international golf stage. Rory McIlroy remembers the tears the last time he fell short in a Ryder Cup. What really stung were the words. The Americans were coming off a 10-point victory and spoke 4 years ago about changing the course of the Ryder Cup. It's still on a European path. Team Europe made it closer than it needed to be. It still wound up winning at the Bethpage Black, and that's 2 straight wins since the 10-point American victory. Nothing has changed, if anything. Europe might be getting better. It has now won 11 of the last 15 times in the Ryder Cup. And then Rory McIlroy went on to call out the hostile New York crowd for unacceptable and abusive behavior. Over his 5 matches at Bethpage Black, McIlroy endured a torrent of insults about everything from his personal life to past failures on the golf course. People shouted out as he lined up to swing and putt. Someone even threw a beer at his wife. And now during the European team's winning news conference, McIlroy said golf, end quote, should be held to higher standards, end quote, for fan behavior. He noted that hecklers were a minority in the crowd of, quote, true golf fans. You're up to date in the world of sports. Stay tuned for my next segment at 1 o'clock as we take a deeper look into the top Canadian sports stories happening around the country, including the women's rugby results in England and how a Canadian woman became the world's fastest 70-year-old sprinter. You're listening to 1680's The Crow I'm Braden Goodman, and thank you for listening.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow. This is 1680 The Crow, and you're listening to our feature presentation.
While students were producing this chatcast, the federal government announced that it will instruct Canada Post to end door-to-door mail delivery and close rural post offices. The government is also lifting the moratorium on community mailbox conversions, saying in a press release that 3/4 of Canadians already receive mail through community apartments or rural mailboxes. Canada Post will be authorized to convert the remaining 4 million addresses to community mailboxes, generating close to $400 million in annual savings.
In 2006, Canada Post delivered 5.5 billion letters, and in 2024, they delivered just 2.2 billion. And the last time the company was profitable was in 2017. What do these numbers mean for the future of mail delivery? And how do people from different generations and geographical locations use and experience the Postal Service? I'm Leah Warren, and with my co-host Joe McHugh, we hope to uncover answers to these questions in this episode of Signed, Sealed, Undelivered. Let's begin. Okay, hi Joe.
Well, hi there, Leah.
Yes, so let's start with what we both think of the mail, and I think you have a different opinion than I do.
Well, my opinion might not be as charitable as your opinion, so maybe we start on a kinder note even.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think of mail as being pretty nostalgic. I sent letters to Santa. I receive birthday cards every year from my grandparents. It's kind of fun receiving a letter, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely did that back in the day when I was a wee lad, but in recent years, I honestly couldn't tell you the last time that I sent anybody a piece of mail, especially not with Canada Post. I mean, hey, I'm a big believer in capitalism and Amazon.
I mean, I guess I have to agree with you there. I haven't sent a letter, but I've definitely received them in the past few years. But yeah, and I guess the first thing we wanted to do is see what other BCIT students thought of the mail.
When's the last time you sent a letter to somebody?
A couple weeks ago, 2 months ago.
Never.
I don't think I've ever had, to be honest.
I sent a letter to Santa when I was 12.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever done that.
I'd say twice a year.
You don't get anything from your bank?
No, that's all online.
Overall, they didn't really seem to be too large of fans of it. None of them, I don't think any of them could tell us. Actually, no, there was one. There was one person who told us when they'd last sent a letter in 2 weeks prior. But we got a lot of. Don't people just use emails and things to that effect?
Yeah, and even with government bills or online banking, there was one that was just yeah, no, I don't receive any of that in the mail. I just do it all online, and I think that's kind of the direction that we're all going. Even older generations have started to realize that online platforms are.
Yeah, I mean, I was quite taken aback. In preparation for this segment, I reached out to some people in rural British Columbia and some older people living here in the Lower Mainland, and they appreciated the mail, and they do like the physical aspect in getting letters, but they had a very realistic take that it's going the way of the dinosaurs. Kirk Barber, West Vancouver resident in his 80s, won't say any more than that. He's realistic about the fate of Canada Post, and I'm not saying fate insofar as final judgment, but there certainly needs to be some pretty significant changes to how the model works. People aren't getting mail volume like they were back in the day.
Certainly, remember, in the old days, you had stamps, you mailed all your checks and everything out. As you know, nowadays, email, most of your billing, you don't get that kind of mail anymore. But it's an essential service for people that want paper copies of their Visa bills. We need those to keep coming to our addresses, your financial statements, whatever. But the mailing is out of date because everybody gets emails. So no one mails cards anymore that often.
I think as recently as 2006, Canadian households were averaging about seven letters per week that they were receiving. And recently it's down to 2 in 2024. I just don't see how that's sustainable. And unfortunately, we're just going to have to figure out a solution.
Yeah, and I definitely think it says a lot that this older generation, an 80-something-year-old man, is moving on to email. You know what I mean? I think that it really goes to show how obsolete Canada Post is.
Yeah, and I mean, and they're getting totally killed on the package market as well. I mean, that used to be a big revenue earner for them. We talked to Patrick Mallet from Caslo, British Columbia. I was actually quite taken aback. He said that in recent years, FedEx and UPS have moved in, and that they probably move about half of the total parcel volume, and that's in a more rural part of British Columbia. So even in the more, not ultra remote meaning, but even in more rural communities, Canada Post is losing their market share.
I can see it's a transition. Like, we hardly get letter mail anymore. We've sort of transitioned out of that, but there isn't really an alternative for that. And there's sort of a nostalgia factor as well. So many not advantages, but benefits of it. Like, just it's a place where you get to meet your neighbors, and yeah, it's kind of it's an important gathering place in the community.
I think it's interesting that they also in such a rural community are moving to online forums. I have to agree with Patrick. I think there is a nostalgia, and I think his anecdote about the postal office being a meeting place for his community, I don't know what's going to happen if there are no more postal offices.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that really took me off guard, and I didn't know this before doing some research for this very show, Canada Post still won't deliver parcels on weekends. Like, the only way you're getting someone if you order it on Friday is Monday if you're lucky. And I just don't see how consumers are meant to, take that as opposed to, other delivery services, which can oftentimes get you something that you've ordered online in less than a day, same day delivery even. I will admit that there's certainly a romanticization, a good feeling about penning a letter. It's got that old timey vibe, right? Oh, penning a letter by candlelight to send off to, somebody important, and the physical correspondence, the mementos, the tokens. I don't think there's a very large amount of people printing off emails and holding on to them for years and years. But at the end of the day, it's tough to deal with the efficiency issue.
Yes, yeah, I totally agree, and I think that's a great segue to talk about the stats and what is really happening as you sprinkled in.
Yeah, I mean, the stats, I was doing some reading earlier, they don't paint a pretty picture for our beautiful, glorious corporation. Canada Post, I think, over the last 7 years has lost over $3.8 billion, and that's coming from their own revenue reporting year by year. It's looking pretty bleak for our guys.
Yeah, and those stats, I guess, are understandable. I mean, there is so many different alternatives to mail. Yeah,
look at how much simpler it is to send somebody an email than it is to get a letter. It doesn't take 2 weeks. They don't have to write it out. We can instantaneously respond. We're kind of living in the future, really. I believe this year, taking into account the first and second quarters, that they could be on track to lose over $1 billion this year. They would have been insolvent if not for Ottawa's $1 billion bailout. It's not looking very good for them.
Yeah, and the fact that their last profitable year was 2017, I think that says something. They're not making money.
Yeah, the total amount of places that they have to deliver is on the rise. The total amount of things they're delivering to those places is on the decline. And wages are going up every year in line with the union's hard-fought position for workers' rights. But as a famous songwriter once said, the times, they are changing.
Yeah, and I think your note about the overtime is very interesting.
Yeah, it's, the way routes are calculated and the total time it takes to deliver is not exactly updated on a yearly basis, one could say. Oftentimes there will be routes that, previously with higher mail volumes would have taken, a full 8-hour shift to deliver. But with the decline in physical mail and the parcel service being taken up by other competitors, oftentimes these routes are completed in, 4 or 5, even 6 hours. In which case, it must be nice to be a mail person because you're still getting paid for that full 8 hours.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. And I think that that's just so inefficient and speaks to a change needed.
Yeah, I really do believe in workers' rights and negotiation. I'm a big fan of unions, but it's a pretty hard thing to ask for more money when your company lost $1 billion. not exactly a great financial picture. If they were a private corporation, they would have been completely defunct by now. Credit where credit's due. FedEx and Amazon certainly don't deliver to some of the most remote communities in Canada, and it is incredibly important for us as a country to be able to get those people packages and parcels that they need these for their daily lives. And Canada Post, they do provide a vital lifeline to those communities. Unfortunately, this is not looking so great from a financial hotspot. There's going to have to be some very serious restructuring of how they operate their business.
I think my biggest takeaway here is that I guess they serve seniors that maybe still do want physical bills, and they serve rural communities in being an essential place to meet a neighbor. But yeah, I guess the future is online. What's your biggest takeaway, Joe?
Well, one thing that really stood out to me is I was actually quite surprised by the older and rural demographic that we spoke to for this episode. They had a very realistic view of how Canada Post is functioning, and they appreciate the nostalgia of the mail. They still like to get their bills, for example, in a physical copy, or they might even send the occasional letter to their friends or cards. But they believer in emails as well. It's not just the younger generation that is moving away from Canada Post. It's even the people who appreciate it. They're not holding on to it with everything they have. They're in the acceptance stage of grief.
Yeah, that's so well said, and I think we'll end it there. Thank you, Joe, for joining me for this episode of Signed, Sealed, Undelivered.
Always happy to be here. Thanks again, Lou.